All right, hello and welcome. This is your question and answer video for Unit 1. So I'm sort of basing these off of the Ask Me Anything trend. So I sent out that poll and I said, ask me anything you want about Unit 1. I got a bunch of really great responses. If I thought that your question was more personal and could be answered best in an individual format, I just went ahead and wrote the answer to you specifically. If I thought the question was interesting for the class as a whole, I wrote question answered in video. And we'll talk about it here because I did think that that would be helpful for everyone to hear and know. Okay, if you did not answer the poll, you did miss a point, and I do want to remind everyone to go ahead and check the announcements. I do those weekly tasks. Please make sure that by Thursday, you have checkmarked all of those things. There are some things like readings that will come up on the quiz but don't necessarily have a due date. So if you're only looking at your dashboard and you're only looking at your to-do items, you could be missing content. So really reference those announcements, which are available on Canvas and also should be emailed to you whenever I send them. Okay, so that's just a little housekeeping item. We'll go ahead and dive into these questions. I'm going to break it down into two parts. One of them I will talk about, so the first section will just be me talking. The second section will be actual demos. Okay. So question number 1. Okay, I do have a question about the quiz. Is there a time limit? Yes. The quizzes are timed for 15 minutes, 15 minutes, and you can only take it once. So what I would recommend if I were taking the quiz, I would have read all the material and watched all the videos and taken notes that make sense best for me. So for me personally, I remember things better if I write them down, and then I can have my notes open right in front of me, and I can have my definitions, and I can reference where these things came from. I also recommend that you have all of the windows open, have the readings open, have the windows open, have the videos, everything, all of the content, have it as open windows in the background of your computer before you click the start button. All of the quizzes are open note. Okay, I'm not trying to trick you, I'm just trying to ensure that you have consumed the content that I have assigned. Okay, so that is how I would tackle those quizzes. It's open note. Take advantage of that. Take physical notes if that's helpful to you, take digital notes if that's helpful to you, and have everything open and accessible so that when you get to the question, about positive and negative space, you can say, oh, I remember that from the reading, go back and reference it. Okay. All right, next question. What exactly are we tested on for quizzes? Do we need to know the names of techniques? Yes. So I'm never going to throw anything wild at you. I'm not going to ask you what media Leonardo da Vinci worked in or what a tortillon is. It is relevant to drawing, but if I didn't tell you that information, I wouldn't expect you to know it. So all of the questions come straight from the reading or the videos. Typically, rule of thumb, if I write it down, if it's the definition of a word, or if it's something that you have to practice, like gestures, just understand that. So an example question might be, what is a gesture used for? And so by doing them, you would know a gesture is used to start the foundation of a drawing, to begin a drawing, to get the energy and overall shape of your subject. Okay? Then another question might be, what is, if I was doing hatching to create value, if I added another set of lines perpendicular to my hatching, what is that called? That is called cross-hatching. So that comes from that first material exploration exercise. So it's sort of that content. It's never going to be tricky. It's going to always be something you run into. But yes, vocabulary is very important, and I probably will test on important vocabulary. Okay. And I am going to talk about this one, but I'll also then go into demoing a little bit. So someone says, I struggled with being able to limit the gesture drawings to 2 minutes. For those, should fine detail generally be disregarded? Yes. So the idea of a gesture and the way that I learned was in charcoal. So we had our big pads and we had our vine charcoal. We'd always start our gesture drawings with vine charcoal, which is a really soft charcoal that can be easily manipulated in the future. And we would be standing up and we would use our whole arm. So gestures, come from the shoulder. When you're working big, you want to get the energy, you want to get the feeling, you want to get the mood, the overall shape of your subject. I am not looking for the texture of the hair or the pupil of the eye. I'm not looking for the screws on a piece of furniture. I'm not looking for the pattern necessarily of cloth or fabric of some kind. So the answer is yes. Disregard all detail. What a gesture is typically for is to get the overall shape, energy, and mood of your subject. So they're big, they're rough, they're energetic, they're quick. That is what a gesture should be. Gestures don't have to be, we're not looking for 100% accuracy. It is a tool to get you to accuracy. So if you're starting with the individual screws or if you're starting with a specific pattern, that is not a gesture. A gesture is big and bold and fast and energetic. Okay? Okay, so those are all of the questions that I would like to talk about. Now I will pause and then demo the answers to some other questions. Okay, moving on. So the next two questions are sort of similar, so I will talk about them at the same time. So one says, I don't have a question about the unit itself, but more so on how to make things more proportional. I tend to make things too big in some areas and it throws the drawing off. This is similar to another question. With gesture drawings, is it better to practice with gesture drawings to get the shape of the drawing instead of just trying to define the lines of the drawing? In my drawing of my non-dominant hand, I tried to just set the lines of the hand without gesture lines. It could have been better if I used those gesture lines instead of having the set lines in place. Okay, so what I'm gathering from both of those questions is, what is the use of a gesture drawing? And how is that implemented? So I'm going to draw this teeny tiny teapot. And for the second question, what I think it's saying is, what if I did sort of a contour with straight lines, drawing this teacup. And if I did that, I might do something like that. Okay, which is not awful in comparison to the teacup, but you saw that this curve was a little too much, and then that kind of threw me off as I went to the other side. So if you are trying to do one singular contour line to start off your drawings, it is really difficult to get things proportionate. So the idea of a gesture, so instead I'm kind of disregarding this thought, and now I'm going to go ahead and think about this as if it's a gesture drawing. So when I'm doing this, I'm keeping things really loose and light. I'm starting with my lightest pencil, and I'm just trying to get the overall shape and tone. So this is helping me because I'm not really specific on this particular curve or the shape. I'm trying to get what's called the envelope, the overall shape of this. Is the overall shape more of a circle? Is it more of a square? Is it a triangle? What does the overall shape look like? Does the handle protrude up higher than the spout? Yes, it does. So as I'm doing my gesture, I'm not really paying attention to how accurate each and every line is. I'm just starting big and then fine-tuning, fine-tuning, fine-tuning. And just think about this as if, all of these lines right now are going to get erased. We're going to get built. We're going to build on it. Nothing is too precious. Nothing is too serious at this point. I'm just getting the overall sensation of the object and my drawing. Okay, so now I'm realizing, well, actually this side is a little bit too large. Actually, the bulbous part is more like a circle. It's more weighted there, which then helps me. The curve actually comes from the side of the spout rather than the top. So through all of this, I'm being really free and loose. I'm not taking it too seriously. I'm just paying attention to the shape of this versus this. How do they come in line together? Does the edge of this go to all the way to the edge of the pot? No, it doesn't. That feels okay to me. How thick is this in comparison? Okay, and that took me less than 2 minutes. So this shape is much more accurate to the shape of this tiny teapot than if I tried to do it all in one with one contour line. So that's what I'm talking about, the strengths and weaknesses of doing a gesture. Is this totally accurate? No. Is this my final drawing? No. But I did it in, again, 2 minutes or less, really fast. I just went in there and started and then just fine-tuned and fine-tuned, and I'm looking more at the big shapes. I'm not looking at screws or buttons or textures or patterns. I'm looking at big shapes, right? So that's the idea of a gesture versus something like that, which puts too much pressure on the actual line. That is not what we're doing. We're starting here, which I think is a much faster way to get to accuracy. Okay, so that was those two questions kind of lumped together. Okay, another question that I actually loved. Is there any more techniques on how to hold the pencil? I've been having trouble with how much pressure I put on the pencil and the lines are darker than I would like. This is an awesome question, and I did think about making a video about grips, just hand grips in general. So typical drawing grip is going to be that, what you learned in school, pretty close to the tip. And so this is really great for controlled lines. I can make really precise lines. But that's not what we're doing with the gesture. So when I'm doing my gesture, I'll typically slide my grip back a little bit, which allows me to have a little bit more freedom of movement. Okay, the farther back you go, the more loose and light it's going to be. So if you choke up, you can do really precise dark lines. If you slide back, you can start to do more hazy calligraphic shades and lines. Okay, and the other thing, and what we kind of practice but a lot of people get stuck on, is how to do the side of the lead for that calligraphic line that we did. So in order to do that, I changed my grip entirely. Okay, so it's like that. And then I can use the side of the pencil. And this is typically how I would shade, because you get the broadest stroke possible. And again, if I am really close to the end of the pencil, I can make it really dark, but if I slide back a little bit, keep my grip a little looser, I can do much more light shading. So you can always utilize both the tip of the pencil and the side of the pencil. Okay. And with that, those were all the questions that I wanted to address for everyone. So thank you to the people who did submit your questions. I hope that this was helpful. I will try to do one of these for every unit just to make sure that I'm answering all of your questions. And if you did not answer, please go ahead and submit something to the poll, even if your answer is, I don't have any questions, doing great, feeling great. If you do have a question, please let me know. You can also always add more than one question if you're struggling with more than one concept. So I hope that helps, and very good luck on your quiz.